May 2010, 4:51 a.m. While the rest of New York sleeps, a frantic voice pierced the silence of Oak Beach. Shannon Gilbert, a 24-year-old woman, vanished into the marshy brambles that morning. But the search for Shannon would reveal a secret far more terrifying than a single missing person. It would uncover a graveyard. 7 months later, a police officer and his canine partner, Blue, were conducting a training exercise. They weren't looking for Shannon Gilbert, but what they found changed Long Island forever. On December 11th, they found the first set of remains. 2 days later, 3 more. They were all located within a quarter-mile of each other, wrapped in burlap, disposed of with a terrifying level of calculation. These women shared more than a final resting place. They were all petite, all in their 20s, and all worked as online escorts. The public called them the Gone Girls, but the man who put them there had a name for them too. He called them targets. For 27 years, a family lived in a modest house on First Avenue in Massapequa Park, Long Island. The house was unremarkable. The neighborhood was quiet. The family was, by all accounts, ordinary. The father was an architect. He commuted to Manhattan every day. He wore suits. He had clients like American Airlines and Target. He had a wife who stayed by his side for nearly 3 decades. He had 2 children who grew up in that house, who called him Dad, who never suspected anything was wrong. His neighbors described him as quiet, reserved, someone who kept to himself. He's been here for about 30 years, and the guy's been quiet, never really bothers anybody, his next-door neighbor told reporters after his arrest. We were kind of shocked, to tell you the truth. But on July 13th, 2023, that ordinary man was arrested outside his Manhattan office, and the world learned that behind the quiet facade of a suburban architect lurked something far darker. Prosecutors say Rex Heerman is the Long Island serial killer, the man who murdered at least 7 women over 3 decades, the man who kept a blueprint of his crimes on a computer in his basement, a document that prosecutors describe as a literal how-to guide for murder, the man who called his victims' families to taunt them, who searched for photos of their loved ones mourning their deaths, who, according to investigators, is a sexual sadist who received pleasure from the physical and psychological pain of others. For years, the investigation stalled. The bodies were found along Ocean Parkway, 10 victims in total, mostly female sex workers, but the killer remained elusive. Then a discarded pizza box changed everything. This is the story of Rex Heerman, the architect who built a double life, the killer who hid in plain sight, the man who after 30 years is finally about to face justice. It began with a missing woman, May 1, 2010. Shannon Gilbert, a 24-year-old escort, placed a frantic 911 call from a client's home in Oak Beach, a gated community on Long Island's South Shore. "Somebody's after me," she told the dispatcher. She ran into the night. She was never seen alive again. In December of that year, police began searching the dense thicket of underbrush along Ocean Parkway, a desolate stretch of highway that runs parallel to Gilgo Beach. They were looking for Shannon Gilbert, but what they found was something else entirely. On December 11th, 2010, a police officer noticed something unusual in the brush, a burlap sack. Inside, the remains of a young woman. Her name was Melissa Barthelemy. She was 24 years old. She had vanished from the Bronx in July 2009. Her mother had reported her missing. Her mother had spent sleepless nights wondering what happened to her daughter. 3 days later, less than half a mile away, police found another body, also wrapped in burlap, also bound with belts or tape. Megan Waterman, 22 years old, last seen leaving a Hauppauge hotel in June 2010. Then another, Amber Lynn Costello, 27 years old, disappeared in September 2010 after leaving her home in North Babylon to meet a client. Then another, Maureen Brainard Barnes, 25 years old, vanished from Manhattan in July 2007. 4 women, 4 bodies, all wrapped in burlap, all discovered within a half-mile of beach. The media called them the Gilgo Four, but there were more. By the spring of 2011, police had found the remains of 10 people along Ocean Parkway. Among them, Jessica Taylor, a 20-year-old escort whose remains were found partially in Manorville and partially at Gilgo Beach. Valerie Mack, a 24-year-old escort who disappeared in 2000, and others whose names investigators struggled to identify. One of the victims, a woman whose remains were found in 2011, wasn't identified until 2020 when advanced genetic testing finally revealed her name, Valerie Mack. The killer had been active for decades, and he was still out there. For 13 years, the investigation went nowhere. Suffolk County Police faced mounting criticism. The task force assigned to the case was disbanded and reassembled multiple times. Leads went cold. Witnesses faded. The killer remained a ghost. In 2015, the investigation suffered a catastrophic blow when Suffolk County Police Chief James Burke was arrested by federal authorities for beating a handcuffed suspect and helping to cover it up. Burke, who had resisted federal assistance in the Gilgo Beach investigation, pled guilty and served time in federal prison. His obstruction had consequences. For years, the FBI was kept at arm's length. Investigators worked in silos. The killer continued to evade capture. But in February 2022, everything changed. Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney formed a new task force. This time, the FBI was invited in. Investigators from multiple agencies worked together. They went back to the beginning, and they started with a single witness statement. Amber Lynn Costello vanished in September 2010. She was 27 years old, an escort who worked from her home in North Babylon. According to a witness who knew her, Amber had been seeing a client, a large man, ogre-like, who drove a dark-colored Chevrolet Avalanche. The man had come to her house multiple times. The last time, he paid her $1,500. She left with him. She never came back. The witness described the man in detail: tall, heavy-set, with a deep voice. A man who looked nothing like the composite sketches of the Gilgo Beach Killer that had circulated for years. For 13 years, that witness statement sat in a file, overlooked. When the new task force formed in February 2022, an investigator pulled that file. The description was entered into a database. One name came back. Rex Herman was born in Massapequa Park in 1963. He attended Berner High School, the same school that produced actor Billy Baldwin. Former classmates described him as someone who got picked on a lot. He studied architecture. In 1994, he founded RH Consultants and Associates in Manhattan. His firm had high-profile clients: American Airlines, Target, Foot Locker. By all accounts, he was a successful architect. He married Asa Ellerup in 1990s. They had 2 children, a son from Asa's previous relationship, Christopher Sheridan, and a daughter, Victoria Herman. The family lived in the same house on First Avenue in Massapequa Park for nearly 30 years. Neighbors described the house as a dump, run down, in need of repair, but the family kept to themselves. The father was quiet, the children played in the yard, everything seemed normal. But behind that normal facade, prosecutors say, Herman was leading a double life. When investigators began examining Herman's cell phone records, a pattern emerged. Between 2007 and 2010, the years when the Gilgo Four disappeared, Herman's phone showed a consistent pattern. When his wife and children were traveling, his phone was active in areas where sex workers advertised. When his family was home, his phone was quiet. Prosecutors would later allege that Herman used burner phones to contact sex workers, dozens of them, hundreds of times. He registered these phones under aliases like Andrew Roberts and Thomas Hawk. He used a Tinder account under these same false names. And here's what investigators found when they traced the burner phones. They all pinged off cell towers in a specific area, a box that contained Herman's home in Massapequa Park. The FBI traced calls from the burner phones to a small geographic area. Herman's house was inside that area. The killer, it seemed, had been living there all along. On July 13, 2023, Rex Herman was arrested outside his Manhattan office. He was 59 years old. Over the following days, investigators descended on his home in Massapequa Park. They spent 12 days searching the property. They seized 58 hard drives, 200 firearms, a storage unit in Amityville, a safe deposit box at a Webster Bank branch. And on one of those hard drives, buried in the basement, they found something that chilled even seasoned investigators. A document, created in 2000, modified through 2002. The file name, HK2002-04. Prosecutors call it the blueprint. The document is a checklist, a how-to guide for murder, written in all caps, meticulously organized. According to court filings, it contained 87 separate details that prosecutors say match the methodology used on the Gilgo Beach victims. A supplies section allegedly listed cutting tools, acid, tarps, cat litter. A body prep section allegedly stated remove head and hands, remove ID marks like tattoos. A things to remember section contained lessons learned from previous killings, hit harder, light rope broke under stress, get sleep before hunt, have stories set. And there was something else. The document referenced specific pages in John Douglas's book Mindhunter, the FBI profiler's seminal work on serial killers, pages that discuss personality types of killers who use mutilation and sexual violence, pages that describe how to avoid detection. This wasn't just a fantasy document, this was a manual, a plan. By early 2026, the charges against Rex Heuermann had grown to 7 counts of murder, stretching back over 30 years. His family, once his fiercest defenders, has split. His daughter, Victoria, now believes he is most likely guilty. The trial is set to begin after Labor Day 2026. The judge has promised it will happen come hell or high water. For the families of the gone girls, the wait for justice has been a lifetime, but the architect's house of cards is finally falling.
For so many years that he was out there and just lurking, and it just really upsets me that the police let this go on for so long, and he could have been hurting other people.
Amber was like the most loving, just sweetest girl, and you know, these girls they're human beings. They're people. So
you are in an oppressed group. I feel like they are going to get pushed down more than if they were just that typical blonde hair, blue eyes, lawyer, teacher, nurse, mother.
People just don't really look at them as just regular humans like the rest of us.
Hours to get to you.
She loved her daughter so much. She was just very kind-hearted, She made mistakes. Who doesn't? She didn't deserve this. Nobody deserves this.
Do you think justice will be served for this victims? Do you think the police didn't take the killings seriously because they were escorts? Let me know your thoughts in the comment. Don't forget to subscribe for more content on unimaginable crimes committed in the US. Stay safe.